Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from the ones that I've been posting up until now. This one's going to be a little bit more personal. I often get asked from people at the clinic or clients that I'm working with how it is that I got into studying Chinese medicine and becoming an acupuncturist. And that story is a lot more personal simply because it starts with my own healing journey that started way back in my late teens and early 20s. And it's something that has truly shaped who I am today. And because it's something that has truly shaped who I am today, I wanted to share that with you guys as well. So today's video is going to be made up of 4 different parts. The first part is going to kind of go over my own struggle with mental health, getting diagnosed and being put on medication. The second part is going to be surrounding the decision that just changed everything for me, how that helped me find empowerment in my own healing journey. Part 3 is going to be about how I discovered my passion for helping others, and I'll wrap it all up with just sharing some key takeaways that I've learned in my own journey up until now that I hope you'll find useful too. So part 1, my early struggle with mental health, getting diagnosed with anxiety and depression, and being put on medication. I've always been more introverted and sensitive, and looking back, I think I maybe might have started developing some kind of anxiety maybe in high school, maybe even middle school. I don't know, that awkward age, trying to figure out who you are. But I didn't really start noticing something becoming a major issue until probably like my first couple years in college. That's when it really started to become super apparent that there was something going on. I was studying something that I didn't really want to study, but I was trying to play it safe. And looking back, I'm very grateful that I went into college and studied business instead of biology. I wanted to be a veterinarian. So I am really grateful for that part of it, but at the time, it's really not what I wanted to be doing. And on top of it all, I was also making just unhealthy choices in general. At that point, I was already, getting into fitness and working with a personal trainer and trying to follow the meal plan that he had given me. But even then, I was still making like unconscious food choices. I had started partying and going out as one does when they're in college, drinking alcohol, and looking back, I was also surviving on obscene amounts of caffeine, where when I think about it now, I'm like, well, no wonder I had anxiety if I was drinking that much caffeine from the moment I woke up till night trying to pull all-nighters, but hindsight. And it was also kind of just like made worse by certain relationships that I had around me at the time, which of course back then I couldn't really see as I do now. And so I can't even really pinpoint exactly how it started or when. I'm just aware that it was kind of a slow progression that was just kind of exacerbated and added to by all of like the lifestyle choices that I was making at the time. And it just started getting to a point where I noticed that I was having like a hard time getting out of bed in the morning. It was just really hard to get up even with an alarm. And I just started noticing that like my mood and my energy weren't what they used to be. And I have this clear image of my head of just sitting on my bed some days, just completely paralyzed with anxiety and fear and being unable to get myself to snap out of whatever it is that I was feeling at the time. I would sometimes sit there for hours, and it was so distressing because I couldn't figure out what it is that was wrong with me. And because I just couldn't even begin to get myself out of that state enough to really understand what it is that was happening to me, I decided to still try to do something about it by going to the doctor. And I'm sure many of you have also had this experience before where you go to the doctor and they immediately diagnose you and put you on medication. That's exactly what happened to me. And I'll never forget how my doctor at that time told me that I would probably just be on medication for the rest of my life. And as a 20-year-old who was already struggling with anxiety and depression and all of like the feelings of shame that brought up. Just like hearing that almost just felt like a death sentence in a way, without there actually being any death. It just felt very like, I don't know. I guess it made me feel broken in a way, and it was also like more depressing to be told at that young age that you're just gonna have to be on medication for the rest of your life. But I knew I had to do something, and so I just decided to take the medication, and I did end up feeling better. Those feelings that I had been feeling went away, and then I started to realize that really what was happening is that I just wasn't really feeling much at all anymore. I had kind of started to feel numb, and I was clear-headed enough at that point to know that that wasn't really a way to live. And so I was trying to feel like sense of these feelings of numbness, and again, like what the doctor had said to me, it was just like still on my mind, and I just knew that there had to be a better way. I just knew that there was no way that I could just continue being numb or being on this medication for the rest of my life. And so that's what led me to making the decision that changed everything for me, and what ultimately enabled me to find empowerment in my own healing journey. And that decision was trying to find natural and alternative methods that were going to help me feel better. So I mean, at this point, I'm still taking the medication, and I first started with actually signing up for a yoga class, and it was Bikram yoga at the time. I don't know if any of you guys have tried it, but the room is super duper hot. It's a 90-minute class. It's like the same series of postures every single time. You know exactly what to expect. And I started to notice that the more that I practiced the yoga, the more that I was just able to experience like a stillness in my mind that at that point I hadn't experienced yet. Part of it probably could have been because when you're in a room that's that hot and you're practicing yoga, it's really hard to focus on anything besides trying not to die. But like it's definitely served its purpose. And then around that same time too, I started doing my own research into herbal medicine, and the first herb that I started taking was ashwagandha. And it was that combined with the yoga, I think, that really kind of just started to make me feel a deeper sense of peace, and it just motivated me to keep going. So it was just like this layering process where after that, I started taking a closer look at the food that I was eating, what I was putting into my body, making more conscious choices, and then also being more mindful of what I was feeding myself mentally, and then also looking at it from like a spiritual perspective, like what energies was I surrounding myself with, what was I intaking. At this point, I also started to pick up journaling, and I think that really caused one of the greatest shifts was being able to get all of those anxious thoughts out of my mind, put them onto paper, and being able to look at them in a more objective way after having already gotten all of those feelings out. And then after the journaling came the meditation, and to be honest, I started with like a minute. I started with just like a minute of meditation. I had such a hard time sitting in stillness. I had such a hard time not having racing thoughts. And so I started with challenging myself just to sitting with a minute in meditation. I eventually increased it to 3 minutes, and it's a practice that I've had moments where like I don't meditate, and the majority of the time I do try to meditate every single morning, and it's just the effects of meditation in my life have been very profound, even though at the time I didn't yet know exactly how powerful of a practice it really was. And so I was doing all of these things, layering them in one by one, trying my best to just stick with it. And within 3 months of making the decision to start trying to heal my body and rebalance myself from an energetic perspective, whatever it is that was going on inside, I was able to get off medication within like those first 3 months. And even though I didn't feel 100%, I certainly didn't feel then like the way that what my baseline is now, I did feel better. And I had already been experiencing some side effects from that medication as well. And so those kind of started to fade away. I felt a little bit better, and I just really tried my best to be as consistent as I could with everything that I had started incorporating into my life at that point. And I honestly just started to feel good as like the months went by. I just started to feel so much better. I felt so much more empowered in my own healing. And I realized that the body is just so much more powerful than we are taught and that we give it credit for, especially with the more common medicine model that's being used today, where there's a tendency to just prescribe medication, prescribe procedures, prescribe surgeries, things like that. And so as I was learning all of this information, I was able to kind of start sharing it with the people around me that were sharing their own personal struggles with me, and kind of give them information or tips that had helped me. I was able to witness them implement it into their own life, and I got to see how much better they felt by making those little shifts that I was recommending to them. And mind you, this was over the course of a few years. It wasn't overnight. And but yeah, it was like being able to help other people with the things that I was learning, and continuing my own self-learning and research, and just like experimenting with myself, that led to me just discovering that I have a passion for helping others. And it's not just a passion for helping others that this journey has helped me discover, but it's also empowering other people to help them realize that they are capable of so much more than they give themselves credit for. Like, you are so much more capable than you give yourself credit for. Healing is entirely possible when we just set our minds to it, when we're consistent, and when we seek greater balance within ourselves than just trying to, put a band-aid on the symptoms. And so it was after all of this, discovering that I really just wanted to help other people feel better, so that they didn't have to suffer the way that I had to suffer, and the way that people that are really close to me have suffered with their own mental health. And it was that kind of led me to start researching different fields that I might get into. And I ultimately just decided to commit to a Chinese medical program down out of San Diego, and I started studying to become an acupuncturist and an herbalist. So I've been in this medicine as of this date, for the last 7 years, from between studying and being now in practice. And I can honestly say that I just feel so much joy and gratitude to be able to, as my job, that I get to work with other people and help them on their own healing journeys, and that I have the honor of witnessing them make some incredible transformations that they maybe at some point thought they would never make. So some key takeaways. Like I mentioned, my healing journey started well over 10 years ago. I would say closer to like 12, 13 years ago at this point. And at this point in my career, I've seen thousands of clients and patients through treatment. And the key things that I've learned since then can probably be boiled down to about 4 main points. The first one is healing is not linear. And this is something that people can really lose sight of when they're in the middle of a healing crisis or some kind of slump or setback in their healing. There are going to be setbacks in your healing journey, but just because there's a little bit of a setback, it doesn't mean that you're not making any progress. The second key thing that I've learned so far is that it makes it so much easier if you can just embrace change sooner rather than later. Allow yourself to let go of old habits, old tendencies, old patterns, maybe even a lifestyle, knowing that it's only going to benefit you in the end. Number 3 is to look at challenges through a grateful eye. Find the silver lining in any situation, even if it's just a tiny one, and trust that there will come a point in time where you will be grateful for the experience just as it is. And number 4, if you are someone who is struggling with your mental health, don't lose hope. It's not a life sentence if you choose for it not to be. And if you have a doctor who wants to put you on medication right away without exploring any other options, either find another doctor or I encourage you to seek a second opinion. Being on medication is not the only way. There's a lot of other avenues that can be taken from a holistic perspective to help you find physical balance, mental balance, and emotional balance that don't involve any medications. And now, please don't take this as medical advice. I feel like I do have to just point that out. Listen to what your doctor's saying. However, I have also treated so many people who struggle with anxiety and depression, and sometimes medication is just not the right fit for you, even if your doctor has the tendency of just like going ahead and prescribing medication. You can also seek other forms of care in addition to being on medication, just to kind of help further balance things out. But don't lose hope. It is possible to overcome the struggles that you're going through. So if you made it this far, I just want to say thank you. I never would have thought that my struggles from the past would have led me to this moment right here where I can share my struggles with people and share everything that I've learned with them in order to help them too. So your support really does mean a lot. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if there's anything that you feel like you'd like more clarity on or any specific questions that you have, feel free to drop them in the comments. I am always available, and I am always open to taking recommendations for any future videos that you'd like to see as well. So with that being said, thanks again for making it this far, and I will see you in the next video.